Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 66th episode of the Game Packs Podcast. My name is Phil, and co-hosting with me, as always, are Camilo and John. We will be covering the hottest stories in gaming news this week, and you can watch or listen to the entire podcast on YouTube or your podcast platform of choice. This week, we're going to be talking about Cyberpunk 2077 and how the next-gen patch is not going to be coming until like the end of this year, 2021, if you're watching this in the distant future. And our second story is the man behind Star Fox F-Zero and the man who created Tingle. This is all one man. I know I said man twice. Is leaving Nintendo. And then there was also a Resident Evil showcase, and we're going to talk all about that coming up in the show today. Cyberpunk 2077 can't seem to stay out of the news. There was an image released showing the release schedule for updates and such, for the DLC for the game. And the image revealed that the next-gen update / versions of the game, they're not coming out until after the DLC, the free DLC, mind you, is coming out for the game. And that's all happening at the end of the year because they're all working very, very hard to patch this game. So I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that timeline. What are your thoughts on the next-gen version coming out after the DLC or the timeline in general?
This game's a joke.
If the game ran normal on last gen, I think it'd be fine if the DLC came out before the next gen versions, but I think since it's not working that great, they should be reprioritizing stuff.
Well, I think
that makes sense to me.
I think on the on that timeline they also have like hot fixes that are planned. So I don't know what the difference between the hot fixes and the big next gen patches.
Hotfix would be like, we're just fixing the current gen game, and the next gen patch would be like the next gen version coming out.
I mean, they definitely have to fix their game as it is now first. But I don't understand why they're releasing DLC for this game before like releasing the optimal experience on console.
Yeah, I don't understand either. But to answer your question, the hotfixes 1.04, 5, and 6, those are already done.
Oh, okay.
So, like, that's what that means. And then the patches, the big patches that they promised in a previous briefing, those are the ones that are coming out. There's, like, a big patch that's coming out this month, and then another big patch that's coming out next month, and those are 1.1 and 1.2, respectively. So that's what all of that stuff means.
Those are coming before the DLC.
Those are coming before the DLC, and those should allegedly fix the current gen. So we're kind of like in a weird spot to where we're speculating, like, oh, okay, like if those patches really do fix the last gen experience, then like,
yeah, then I think it's fine if the DLC comes out like that.
I don't know. I just feel like you guys watch The Apology? We didn't have that in the notes, but like, did you guys see the big apology?
No.
From like the co-founder, co-creator or whatever? Basically, he was just like, sorry, we weren't like listening to our developers and blah, blah, blah. And there's just basically the developers were told that like, yeah, he was like, oh, like I take full accountability, except, COVID was a problem. And I'm like, dude, this game, like, clearly was, like, not in production for, like, when did they announce it? Like 2013 or something insane.
Yeah.
So, like, this game was not in production for 7 years. Like, people were, like, doing, like, deep dive research, and, like, it looked like they just basically started making the game after the E3 demo came out. And they're like, oh, you see this E3 demo? Let's make the game now and have it look like that. People were like, that's like a legitimate theory that people are like actually believe. And I kind of believe it too, because
it also
just
seems
like they're, go ahead.
The, when development teams develop games, right, it's not typically on like a PS4 dev kit or an Xbox One dev kit. It's a PC.
Right.
So they're optimizing it for, PC level technology that is, years ahead of where PS4 and Xbox One are.
Right.
So
many years.
Yeah. I
those
don't know.
came out so long ago.
And they weren't like necessarily like the most up to date when they came out, right?
I can only speak for knowing that the Switch was not.
Well, I watched a video saying that like they were like okay for the time, but like they still they weren't like on the same level of like what I don't know, I guess a mid-range PC or like a high-end PC was at the time.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, usually they try to stay to par with like mid to low range PC.
Yeah.
So that'd be interesting if they weren't even meeting those standards.
But yeah, I mean, I think you need a higher end PC to run this game right now, like at the optimal settings.
I mean, I have and I've talked about it before, but like I think since the last time we talked about this game on the podcast, like I've got the PC code and I'm trying to run it on PC, and it's not going well. It's still giving me like the flatline error when the game like totally crashes. It like does really crazy like visual bugs that like scare me, that make me feel that like the GPU is like basically on its last leg. And I'm like, is it because like, is this thing overheating? Like, what's going on? Like, is this just not optimized to work on anything? Is this game not meant to exist?
No, you have to spend $5,000 to play this game.
And it's not worth it. Speaking of that, do you guys want to talk more about the timeline at all? Because I feel like the next question is a little bit bigger.
Yeah. You go to the second question.
Yeah, so basically my second question is a little bit broader, and it's, can Cyberpunk even be saved? Or is what this game is at its core, like foundationally, totally broken? So they're just like building something on top of something that never worked to begin with. Like, what are your guys' thoughts on that? From hearing news stories or from firsthand accounts?
So the reviews are like, the reviews that came out, they saw a lot of potential in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, despite all of the technical errors. So if they could actually work out the technical errors, maybe there's something there. I mean, we've seen games like this in the past have a really crappy launch, and then a year, 2 years later, it turns out to be an amazing game. Like No Man's Sky had a really bad launch.
It's a perfect example. Yeah.
Fallout 76. I mean, I don't think that many people like that game anymore anyway, but that had a bad launch and they fixed it.
Yeah, they fixed a bunch of stuff, but I think that game is just like, a lot of people are like, I like my single player RPG experience, and like this, it's not that. So I think people have issues with just the idea of it at its core. But I go ahead.
No, sorry. Last thing, I want to know if the Witcher series did not exist, right? And CD Projekt Red was any other developer,
bankrupt.
Yeah, well, yeah. Would they get a pass? I feel like some people are giving them a pass because they made The Witcher
3.
Yeah.
Well, that was the mantra to the staff. It was like, well, we made The Witcher 3, so like anything, like we can do this. Anything is possible. And there's also the running joke of like, hey, you guys bought a Polish video game and expected it to work. Like, what were you thinking? It's like, I don't think Poland is really known for exporting AAA games.
Plus, they're a pretty small team. Well, they were. I think for the Witcher series, they were pretty small.
Mm-hmm. But they were like, yeah, they ran their staff like with crunch hours, and people were quitting, and it's just not.
And it's still a crap product. Like, it's still bad.
So yeah, back to the original question is like, it's the things that I just think it's not fundamentally broken, but it's fundamentally not the experience that they promised, and I don't think it ever will be, because they talked about like basically the city being like alive and breathing, and it's just like not that kind of an immersive experience. Like, I think the way that you interacted with the characters and the way that your character evolved and stuff like that, like, was supposed to be a lot more, cohesive and transformative, and it's just like that's not what the game is.
Yeah, I heard
there's quests.
I heard like the shops in the city, or like that the only thing you could really interact in the city is like the shops, and then everything else like you can't really interact with. So like, what's the point of having this crazy open world concept?
Like, yeah, exactly. It just seems like it's just like any other city we've ever seen or visited in a video game, except on a larger scale, but like not any more interactive than these other cities have been. Arguably less interactive. Like you can interact with vending machines, and I don't know. It's just like Grand Theft Auto. Like there's just side by side comparisons of Grand Theft Auto, which is a super old game. I'm talking about the 5, Grand Theft Auto 5. Like they do side by side comparisons of like, you know, how like the crowds react, how the police react to when you do a crime. It's like the police literally zap in, like they load in next to you, where like in Grand Theft Auto they have to get the crime reported to them, they have to drive to you, you can escape. Like it's just none of these systems of the NPCs having lives, which is something they promise. Like none of that's there, and they'll be able to fix like NPCs like walking through walls and stuff like that. But I think they're only going to be able to fix it to the point to getting what currently exists to function, and not really creating the world that they promised. I guess I feel like I kind of made that point twice, but I just wanted to reiterate it.
Yeah, but you meant like fixing the bugs, but not like enhancing the game.
Yeah,
anymore.
Exactly. Enhancing it to the point of what we all thought this thing was going to be, which it ain't. So, I don't know. At this point, I'll just take a working game. That's my final thought on that.
I'll add a question to this discussion. So,
yeah, sure.
If they do fix out the bugs this year or something, can a game like this be nominated for Game of the Year? Is it worthy of that?
You know what? I think it will get nominated.
Yeah, I think so too.
But I don't think it'll win. I think it'll be nominated, and I agree that everyone should be like, what? And disagree with the fact that it should be nominated, because the technical marvel, like, I feel like people still in their mind are like, oh, but it's this game. It's not that game. It's not the game they said it was. It's the game that you have in your hand. And the game that you have in your hand is not crazy revolutionary. It's like a pretty cool setting for like a open world RPG. Like that's, and the story's good. And I like some of the voice acting's really, really good. But like, if that stuff wasn't good, if there wasn't voice acting and he was just had to read text the whole time, like some of the older games, like this game would be not very engaging, and I feel like I wouldn't care about any of the characters. But there are moments in this game, and I have got through the game far enough to have feelings. The game has given me feelings. I don't want to like take away from the fact that they did build pretty decent characters, but they plopped them into a broken world.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to get nominated for Game of the Year just because, you know, it's Cyberpunk and it's CD Projekt Red. Mm-hmm. They can do no harm. And, I mean, I doubt it'll win as well. Mm-hmm. Who knows what's coming down the pipeline, though? Like, we could have a really crappy year for games and it could win.
I mean, we did have a great year last year, so, like, I'm a little worried that, like, we're going to have a dry spell in 2021. We're going to start to see the effects of, like, okay, COVID really did mess up the pipeline for everybody. Like, they could finish what was already basically done and then get that stuff out in 2020. But, like, stuff that, you know, needed to be, like, really hard
development or, like,
Yeah, exactly. We might get some hiccups here. But there's stuff on the horizon, like...
A lot of anniversaries this year, so...
Yeah, a lot of anniversaries. We'll talk about one a little later.
Yeah, it's true. We got one coming up in the show.
God of War.
But yeah.
There's some
God of War.
Big names that probably will get delayed, but, you know, they're on the calendar right now.
It's true. They are on the calendar. So I guess final thoughts on Cyberpunk 2077 in general. what do you think about the apology? Like, do you think I'm like the apology is like was half-assed. The guy was like, "Oh, like we were out of touch and
we released
COVID
our
happened."
alpha game."
Yeah, it's like
you're our QA testers. You'll find all the bugs.
They just chose money over.
Oh yeah.
Over anything, and that's like at
It's
the end
sold.
of the day, they're a corporation, and that's usually what corporations do, right?
It sold like 12, 13 million copies.
I know. How many of them work? I want to
Who's
know
on
what
PC?
percentage of. Yeah, what's the percentage of people who actually like could get their game functioning and like get through the story without any major hiccups? I don't know. I'm gonna wait. We've got the timeline. We showed you. I don't know if it's still on the screen, but we showed you the timeline at one point. I'm probably gonna wait until the end of 2021 to actually play the game again on my PC.
Me too.
So,
I have the
that's
PS5 version, so I'm gonna try that once it gets
Nice.
that patch.
Very cool. Camilo, is this a game that you would consider playing?
Probably like next year or something once everything's figured out.
Nice. All right. Well, yeah, we'll touch base with you guys in 2022 when Cyberpunk is fixed. All right, so the last time I tried to pronounce a Japanese businessman's name on our podcast, I butchered it and was subsequently ridiculed by Camilo. So I am going to try my best. I did some practicing of pronouncing it before the podcast started, and here we go. Takeya Imamura, huh?
I'd say Takaya, but yeah, I think that works.
Okay, all right.
Sound pretty
Camilo
good to
approved.
me,
Okay. Let us know in the comments, guys, or on our Discord. Join the Discord. We're having some fun conversations over there. So, would you say Takaya?
Takaya
Imamura announced on his Facebook page that he is leaving Nintendo after more than 30 years. He was the man behind Star Fox, F-Zero, and my personal favorite Zelda character of all time, Tingle. He also worked on a number of other mainline series games, including Donkey Kong, during his time at Nintendo. His first job at Nintendo was working on F-Zero, I think, as like an artist or an art director. And as far as I can tell, his last job was working on the Star Fox content that was in Starlink Battle for Atlas, the Toys to Life game that died. So, but I have some of the toys. I like them.
The Star Fox toys were cool, so
yeah,
they got that.
It is
I think
cool.
I bought that set with the game for like $5.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
messed
they
up.
were fire sailing it at Best Buy for like seriously $5.
Like a month after release. Like it wasn't even that long.
No, I remember I bought it and I made a video about like why is a Toys to Life series coming out after Toys to Life is over, like as a craze, and then subsequently, very quickly, the whole thing just kind of went kaput.
The sad part is that game's not that bad. That's an actual decent game.
It's really not. It's like Destiny meets Star Fox.
No Man's Sky and
yeah, a little bit No Man's Sky mixed in. So anyways, that's Battle for Atlas. You guys can buy that for 99 cents at your local GameStop if you're interested in trying that out. So our first question is to everybody here on the panel. I'll say that we're a panel. Did you ever hear of this designer before this story? I'll answer first. Yes, but I didn't know his name. When I was looking, I'm familiar with who this dude is. Like, I was looking at pictures of him, and I recognized pictures of him when he was younger, like probably from the 90s or like the early 2000s. I definitely recognized him, and I was like, oh, this is the guy. But like his like farewell photo of him standing outside of the Nintendo offices, I'm like, this guy looks like Giancarlo Esposito, and I don't know who this guy is. And I definitely didn't recognize his name. What about you guys? Were you guys huge fans? Did you follow him on Twitter?
Oh yeah, on Facebook, you know.
Oh yeah, you saw his announcement. Is that how the story got into the podcast?
Yeah. No, I mean I assumed, you know, somebody had to create Tingle. I just didn't know who it was.
What sick man would create Tingle?
So the original Star Fox, right? That was it wasn't Star Fox at first. It was just a generic space shooter game.
Right.
And Nintendo bought it. And they said that it has to have, cute furry creatures in it. So it's really cool to know. Is that
what happened?
Yeah.
No, wasn't it? It was I remember.
I thought they were developing it, and then Miyamoto said, "No, you need to make these fuzzy animal creatures."
Yeah.
Yeah, he was inspired by what was I think it was one of the Nintendo Directs 5 years ago. He was describing the origin of Star Fox, and it was he was inspired by this temple in Japan, and they had foxes, and they were like, "Oh, we'll just make them all animals."
Yeah, but I think I was watching a documentary saying they said it wouldn't sell if it didn't have cute furry creatures.
Furry being the keyword there. I don't know. We'd have to get to the bottom of that. Maybe I'll pin a comment on this story of the research that I did or forgot to do. I lost my train of thought. Yes, I've heard of him. Who else has heard of him? This is good. This is good stuff.
I too assumed someone designed these characters. I just did not know who made them.
I thought Miyamoto just made these characters.
That's not what I said, but okay. What'd you say to me? You thought it was Miyamoto?
I thought Miyamoto or Onuma, the Zelda guy.
But this happens a lot. People produce games, but they don't actually produce who the characters are, what they look like.
Mm-hmm.
So did this guy design Captain Falcon and stuff, or we don't know what he did on F-Zero?
I think he was the art director on F-Zero, right?
Okay.
Do I still have this tab up? I'll bring it up. Research team, go. Nope, that's for work. Oh, here it is. Got it. For F-Zero, he was a graphic designer.
Oh.
So maybe he made a level or two. But it seemed like that was his first project at Nintendo. He wasn't in charge.
It was only he was there for 30 years and he's 54, so he was young. He was only 20, in his early 20s when he started.
F-Zero is a game for the SNES made by Shigeru Miyamoto.
Did he just make everything? I feel like he just gets credit for everything.
Dude, he did everything. First game with Captain Falcon was a launch game. Fun facts about F-Zero. Going back to where's his little thing? Graphic designer. So I feel like he was in the art department. He was a graphic designer in F-Zero. He was an object designer on A Link to the Past, graphic designer on Star Fox, who obviously took the lead and basically created all of these characters like Star Fox and Slippy and Peppy and Falco and General Dog.
Wolf.
Wolf.
Well, Wolf wasn't in it till 64. But
he probably made them anyway.
It's possible.
I can't believe they let this guy. I can't believe they let this guy work there for 30 years after how bad these series bombed.
At just F-Zero and what else? Star Fox. F-Zero, Star Fox. Yeah, these things that just weren't catching on. But he was a CG designer on Donkey Kong 94, so whatever that means, good job, because that game's awesome.
That's a really good game. Is that the Game Boy one?
Yeah, that's the original Game Boy one. That actually, I think. Let me pull up my video right here. Yeah, actually, over my left shoulder, you guys can see it when you watch the podcast, and all the viewers can see it. Donkey Kong 94. CG designer. Oh man. So
let's go on to the next one.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Let's talk more about that.
Let me pull the script back up. Okay, so yeah, we've loosely heard of this boy, and are glad for his contribution. So let's just talk about the series in general that he worked on. Out of his credits / contributions, Star Fox, F-Zero, Tingle, which is your favorite? I'm going to throw it over to Camilo because I know he's got an answer ready.
Probably, I mean, Tinkle's cool, but I would say Star Fox probably.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the only game I like is like Star Fox 64 because that's like the only good one.
Did you play it on the 3DS?
Yeah.
Cool.
I had it on the 64, and then I like the 3DS version better.
Yeah, I was thinking about picking that up.
Tell me, Star Fox Zero isn't your favorite Star Fox game?
Dude,
I don't even think I bought it.
I have it, and I played the first 2 levels, and I was like, this is... And somebody else said it really well, in that, like, on-rails games like that just, like, kind of are out of date. Like, they're not fun, really. Like, when you could be, like, exploring, like, a whole outer space, but, like, instead you're sort of stuck to, like, moving forward and shooting the things that show up in front of you. Like, that really only works still for those, like, bullet hell, top-down kind of shooters, you know? Or, like, side-view shooters, like Ikaruga.
But can you say the same thing for, like, a 2D game that's, like, too restrictive? Why wouldn't you just play a 3D game?
Well, no, I'm saying that, like, even if you do play a restrictive game like Ikaruga or something, like, those games, I feel like, are still good. But, like, I don't think that, like, Star Fox is, like, complicated enough or interesting enough to where, like, that very specific type of, like, 3D on rails is, like, very fun. At least not the way that they've been doing it. But, like, if you do it on rails in a 2D setting, which is essentially what it is, because you're just moving down a cylinder like this, I don't know. I feel like those games are a lot better to play.
Plus, you got... That game controlled like garbage. Like, you had the gamepad was your...
It was like a first-person view, right?
Yeah, it was a very confusing way to do it because you had to look at the gamepad, but you also had to look at the TV screen. Mm-hmm. It was not well designed in that aspect.
Mm-mm. And then the gamepad, I think, was also motion controlled. Yeah. So, like, you're motion controlling and looking down and then still motion controlling and then looking up. It was just not my favorite way to game.
Nope.
What about you, John?
Well, you're probably going to say Tingle, so I'll go with the F-Zero. I remember playing F-Zero on the GameCube, and that game was awesome. Extremely hard, though. I wish we would get a new F-Zero. I just want a new, like, racing game from Nintendo. Mm-hmm. Like, we really only have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch. And I want a different experience. And F-Zero would be a different experience.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they could bring back, like, Wave Race, or they could bring back maybe Diddy Kong Racing. Like, I don't know how that works. They released Diddy Kong Racing on the DS after the departure of Rare, so I assume they just had to, like, get rid of Banjo and stuff. So I assume they could still make another Diddy Kong Racing game. So, and Donkey Kong Barrel Blast was on the Wii. So I'm just gonna keep saying, like, we could get a racing game with Donkey Kong characters in it. That would be great. Let's have more Donkey Kong content. I don't like F-Zero. I think that it's just weird. Like, I get that it's supposed to be, like, super fast, but I never really liked the Mode 7 and, like, trying to, like,
I wasn't a huge fan of the SNES version.
Yeah.
But, like, the GameCube version I liked a lot.
I guess I never played the GameCube one. And I like the tracks in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Yeah.
There's two F-Zero tracks.
Yeah, there's Big Blue cool. And... I forget what the other one is.
One of them has laps, and the other one's a one-way, right?
Yeah. Big Blue is... I enjoy Big Blue. That track.
That's the one-way, right?
Yeah. And then...
That's
the other one, cool. Motor City? I don't know, something City.
Mute City?
Mute City.
That's what it is, yeah.
The things that I have in my brain. So, my favorite contribution by a mile is Tingle. I love Tingle. He's so easy to meme. I try to experience every facet of Tingle that I possibly can when I'm playing a Zelda game.
Wasn't there a Tingle game?
There are Tingle games on the DS that I don't own, actually, and you now have inspired me to go to eBay immediately once this
I don't
podcast is
remember.
over.
Was it Europe only or something, or like Europe and Japan only?
I think there was one that was there's 3 of them. One of them is Japan only, but I think there's 2 other ones. I can look.
Well, I think the DS is not region locked, so I think you're good.
Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land. Freshly picked Tingle's. Oh my gosh! Freshly picked Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land for the Nintendo DS. I have to own this. Oh my god! If somebody listening or watching owns this game, hit me up in the DMs. I got hard money for you. Then we've got Tingle's Balloon Fight on DS, which was only made available to Club Nintendo members in Japan and released in 2007. Too Much Tingle Pack. Can you have too much Tingle? That was released as DSiWare exclusively to Japan in 2009. The Rosy Rupee Land was Japan only, and then a year later it released in English for Europe, so it's not here. And then Ripened Tingle's Balloon Trip of Love was released in Japan in August 2009 and has not seen a Europe or American release. Okay, so I'd have to import all of these games.
It'll be worth it, though.
So there's basically 2 games that I could buy. The freshly picked Tingle's... Dude, I can't even say it. Freshly picked Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land for DS, and then Ripened Tingle's Balloon Trip of Love are 2 games that I need to import immediately. That's hilarious.
I can't believe they didn't make more games with Tingle.
You could also use the Tingle tuner. Do you remember that?
Yeah, in Wind Waker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the Tingle suit in Breath of the Wild?
Yeah.
Yes. I was doing a Tingle only run where I was I'd have to make food and stuff to survive in the cold because I wouldn't take my Tingle costume off. It was pretty fun. So yeah, I think I've gotten the most joy out of Tingle than any of his other creations. But yeah, without Imamura-san, we wouldn't have Tingle. So thank you for your contribution.
Yeah, thank you.
The Resident Evil Showcase debuted live today, Thursday, January 21st. That's when we're taping this. And we got a first look at Resident Evil 8 gameplay and Resident Evil Reverse, which is a multiplayer game that kind of had a comic book aesthetic almost.
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
It
looked like a mobile game.
I think it looked more like a Switch game.
Yeah, well, they had the weird, hard strokes on the characters.
Mm-hmm. Because at first I thought it was just cell shaded, but and then I think it also had the dots, you know how old comics had dots on them, black dots.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting thing, and I was talking to some people about it and about how Resident Evil is definitely has action in it, but it's I don't expect a big shooter it's just a multiplayer.
Resident Evil 6.
Oh yeah, that's true. I've played 5 of it too, and that's pretty action heavy.
Yeah.
But the good ones
not like
are
this.
Not.
It's not like the multiplayer stuff. They used to do Outbreak. Do you remember those games? Those were back on PS2, and they were similar to this.
Did they remaster those at all?
No, they were multiplayer games like this.
Oh, interesting.
And there's also, what the heck was it called? They released one with Resident Evil 3 Remake.
Mm-hmm.
But they never do well. I don't know why they keep releasing these things.
There was also that weird Umbrella game.
Umbrella Chronicles, yeah. No, I know what you mean.
That was multiplayer.
Didn't one of like the 3DS Resident Evil ones have multiplayer? Was it like the Mercenaries or something?
I don't remember.
Well, Mercenaries is like a game, is like a mode. Like it's not multiplayer. Actually, maybe on the Resident Evil Revelations, you could play online. But like Resident Evil 5, it's just a mode.
Before we get too deep into all of these offshoots and modes and multiplayer games, there were a couple other things they announced. They teased a Netflix show, and a tech demo was dropped on PS5 during the showcase. So in that, you can play as a character called the Maiden, and you can't attack or shoot or anything, but you can like walk around in the world and kind of experience what that next gen Resident Evil will like really look like on your system or your TV or like whatever your gaming setup is for PS5, which is cool for PS5 owners. But like
they did say it's coming out later on other platforms.
Okay. So quickly before we get into the Resident Evil conversation, I just wanted to ask everybody like what their background was with the franchise, because mine's not extensive. So I'll jump in quickly and say what I've played. So I didn't have a PlayStation growing up. So the first time I ever really played Resident Evil was Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube, and I was bad at it. I was very, very bad at it. So I didn't get very far. I did find the merchant that said, "What are you buying? What are you selling?" And I really enjoy that. I reference that a lot. So I've played like 4. I did a little bit of co-op with 5. I never played 6. I've played like the first 45 minutes of 7. And I just played, before we started the podcast, because I knew we were going to be talking about Resident Evil, I started Resident Evil 2 Remake, and I played that for about 30 minutes. So that's... Oh, no, and Code Veronica on the Dreamcast, actually. That is... I played that one, actually, probably more than any of them, because I only had so many games for my Dreamcast. And when you're like a kid and you only have like so many games, you play them, you know? You're just like...
yeah.
You can't be like, this is dumb. I'm going to go buy another $60 game because I have just expendable income. So that's my experience with Resident Evil. What about you guys? Are you deep in the lore?
Kinda. I've only really played the Resident Evil 1 remake because I was like, I've never played a Resident Evil before. Probably should start at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I played that. It was okay. It was like tank controls. And then I played the Resident Evil 2 remake, which I liked a lot, actually. But yeah, people keep telling me to play, like, you should play like Resident Evil 7. That one's really good, but I just haven't got around to it. I do want to play the 3 remake because I was waiting to play that because like I heard it was kind of short, like to pay $60 for that. I was like, I think I'll
you get for like $15.
Yeah,
it's true. What is that? That's Jill Valentine.
That's Jill. Yeah, and Nemesis. It's Nemesis.
Right.
That's not really a spoiler. It's actually called Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. So.
Yeah. But very aggressive font.
I believe 7 is on the PlayStation Plus collection, right? I might.
Yep.
Get around to that.
And it's also on Game Pass.
Yeah, you could get that game for super cheap if you even if you don't have
either of those services.
Yeah, you could get it for probably less than $10.
Yep. CDkeys.com, not sponsored, but if you try to buy PC games, you can get them for under $10, all of them. Just make sure that it's for the region that you live in. So
wait, I didn't get to say
John.
Yeah,
so
John
I was gonna say so John. That's exactly what I was saying, guys. I totally wasn't moving on. So John.
It sounds like I actually have the most experience with the franchise.
All right, let's hear about it.
Well, I didn't have a PlayStation growing up either, so my first experience was the Resident Evil remake on GameCube, and I love that game to death. The tank controls are annoying to get used to, but just like being in the mansion the whole time and exploring that, it just brings back so much nostalgia and memories. There's also Resident Evil 0, which is not that well known, and people don't.
I have that. I just haven't got around to playing it because when I got the one remake, it came with the 0.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one's a little different. It's more about like bugs and stuff. That was weird. But my favorite game in the series is Resident Evil 4. That is one of my favorite games like ever. I think it's perfect. We'll talk about this a little later. There are a couple things that I would like to change, but the game is it's an experience. I think that's one of the games that everybody should play at least once in their life. Because it just defined a whole genre of survival horror, and it's just such a good game.
I'm happy to talk about it now.
About the remaster?
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you think we need one?
I would love to see one. The game is, it was a 10 back when it came out. It probably doesn't hold up as well. I just played through most of it recently, and I enjoyed it, but the tank controls, they're just so outdated that it's hard to get used to them, especially if you're used to playing shooters, twin stick shooters, and you can't, you have to stop and aim and stop and aim. And then to, turn and turn around. Tank controls they don't hold up.
It's hard to play a game that requires you to run for your life, and you have to go. I'm turning with tank controls on the camera, just so you guys know what's going on.
That is like that's one of the things that gives you that fear in those games. Yeah. Like, oh no, I might not be able to get out of this situation because, I can't control myself.
Oh man.
But that, like, Resident Evil 4 really, I don't know if you guys know this, but like Resident Evil 1, you need ink ribbons to save. And you could run out of ink ribbons, and Resident Evil 4 got rid of those, so that was a big improvement.
Yeah, I always hear Resident Evil 4 is like that's the start of like the modern Resident Evil.
Yeah, it is.
Like
they got off track with 6. Like they went more towards action in 5 and 6. And 4 is like blended horror and action.
Yeah, I definitely, from what I've played of it, I really liked it, and I've tried it. I think it's on Game Pass, maybe, and I tried it again, and I was like, "Ooh, it's like on like modern platform, like maybe it's gonna be better," and it like still has that old controls. And to be fair, like I didn't sit and be like, "Okay, I'm gonna learn tank controls and like really enjoy this game." I kind of was like, "Oh, it's tank controls. I'm gonna wait." They did 2. They did 3. Like 4 is the most popular one for a lot of people. Or it's a crowd favorite for most people.
2 remake is amazing. That's probably my second favorite one. That got rid of tank controls, and it's still a phenomenal experience. They could do 4. They could do 4.
Dude, the beginning of that game, oh my god. It's like a bad action movie, but like it's good.
But that's the whole point of it. They're campy.
Super campy. Like he pulled a dude out, and this is like not a spoiler because this is the first 10 seconds of the game. He pulls a dude out, and the guy gets like halved. He gets like totally cut in half by like what are those things? Like a big like rolling door. And then Leon's just like, "Are you okay?" And I'm just like, no, dude. He doesn't have half of his body. Like what?
Yes, they are not like they don't react like normal people would react in the situation.
Yeah, because people would just be wigging out.
The one thing that I would love about if they redid 4 is there's no annoying monster following you around everywhere. Just leave me alone. Let me chill.
What, the dude with the chainsaw?
You could kill him though.
Yeah, but 2 had an annoying monster in it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I if they did,
why would they remove it if they just did that?
But there is none in 4. I'm just saying in 4 there is no, like, in 2 and 3 of the originals.
I thought you're saying there is, and you're saying remove
no,
it.
No,
I
think
there's one in Code Veronica too that follows you.
What 4 brought in was a second character. Like, you have to protect a character.
Can we spoil who that is?
Yeah, I mean, it's a 20-year-old game, right?
It's the president's
daughter.
Leon has to save the president's daughter. That's hilarious.
That game is super campy, too, though. Mm-hmm. I recently watched all of the movies. There's like 10 of them, and they're not good. No, but it was really cool to see, like, oh, this is the movie based on Resident Evil 4. This is the movie based on Resident Evil 2. Like, it was I love this series. It's a great series.
I love the room with the lasers in it that cuts people into meat cubes.
Yeah,
that's great.
That's not in any of the games. I don't know why that's in the movie.
The close up on that person's eyeball as it goes like. Sorry. Viewer discretion advised for this podcast.
Yeah, I'm putting that clip in there.
Yeah, I gotta put. Yeah. Put as much disgusting gore over this story as possible. So jumping back to the Resident Evil showcase, unless anybody else had stuff about the 4 remaster, I definitely want one. I want one very badly because I would like to play that game to completion. I think if they made it modern, I would be able to play it. Mm-hmm. Do you feel strongly one way or the other? Do you think it's a classic the way that it is, Cam, and it shouldn't be touched?
I think it'd be cool if they remade it. I don't think it's as necessary as 2 and 3 because before the 2 and 3 remake, the only way you could play those were like the PS1 versions, and you could. I would say they were much less accessible, and that made them playable. Like I feel like people still say like 4 is like an amazing game just like on its own. So like,
well, they poured it to everything.
It would just be extra. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I also think there's a mod on PC where you can change the controls.
That is really like if they want to just re-release it, with the 4K version and take out tank controls, I'd be fine with that too.
That's all they need.
But isn't it kind of wait? You mean just like up the resolution?
Yeah, just up the resolution,
or up the textures to match.
Yeah, because I hear people like complain about like, oh, they upped the resolution, but the textures are like crappy because it's
you got
PS2 game.
You can't just leave the textures alone. That never works.
I mean, they could just, I don't know, how hard is it to just plop it into the Resident Evil 2 and 3 engine?
What? How hard is it to build a game from the ground up in an existing engine? Hard. It's hard to build a game from scratch in an existing.
They basically made a new game and said, okay, let's call it Resident Evil 2.
Yeah, that's a brand new game.
Yeah.
My question though is are 2 and 3 in the 7 engine just from a third person perspective?
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know, but I like the main series now is going first person, right? Because 8 is first person as well. It's
allegedly more immersive that way.
I like how they do the offshoot remakes because it's like the old school feel of Resident Evil. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I get it. Like, it's supposed to be more immersive, but I also just like kind of like when I'm not playing like a first person shooter to have a third person perspective. Like you wouldn't categorize it as like an adventure game, but you know what I mean. I like to.
Well, it's not even like a third person shooter. It's like a, what do they call it? They call it something else. Like it's not fully third person. It's like over the shoulder or something.
Yeah. Over the shoulder. So yeah, jumping back to that was what we think about for remaster, which was not announced in the story that we're talking about, but it's something that we want. We sort of talked about the multiplayer. I just want to touch on it one more time in saying that it's bad, and I don't think it's going to be supported for a long time, and will eventually become defunct.
Yep.
And no one will play it. I watched the whole thing, but I forget this Netflix tease. Do you remember it, John?
I don't know. It was in that IGN article. I think it has to do. It's like an anime show. It's not like a live action.
Is it CG or animated?
I think it's CG. I think it's CG.
Maybe they did like a short trailer for it, but I kind of don't remember it.
I don't know. I skimmed it because I watched it right before we started recording. Yeah. I was really just skimming to see the 8 gameplay, see if there's any other big announcements and stuff.
The only thing I'd have to say about the Netflix show is that I don't love the movies. And video game adaptations are rarely good.
Apparently the animated ones are good, though. The animated Resident Evil shows or movies are supposed to be pretty good.
Maybe they can just do more with like a completely, fresh canvas and not having to like build sets and have people act like zombies are coming after them.
Yeah.
Like, get a little bit more leeway with that.
The movies are definitely campy too. Like, oof. I watched all 8 or 9 of them. I mean, there's a lot of them.
Are there really that many?
There's a lot. I did not realize there were that many. But we're like,
is Mila Jovovich in all of them?
She's in all of them. She's in all of them.
Wow. Well, I guess that's where she's been.
Now she's in Monster Hunter, who is the same creators as Resident Evil.
Right, and that movie also is going to be
maybe it's her.
A pile of monster dung. Yeah, she's the one that's ruining it. I don't think it's her. Did you see the trailer or the tease for the show, Camilo?
I think I skimmed over it. I didn't get a chance to look at it.
I mean, this is a video game podcast, not a TV show podcast.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to watch TV shows, go for it. We don't care, obviously.
Look for the show pack.
Yeah. We're not the show pack. I'll show you my 6-pack, but we're not the show pack. Then lastly, the coolest thing I think that got announced was that the demo of sorts was dropped onto PS5 while it was happening, and you can play as the Maiden. I actually will probably download this.
Me too.
Give it a shot.
Yeah, I'll try it out.
We didn't have enough time between when that thing aired and when we filmed this thing to actually play it, so we don't have first impressions or anything for you. Or do we? No, we don't. But that looks super cool. Like, I'm excited to get into that world. Like, it's there's werewolves, there's vampires, there's it's very gothic. Like, it's a big change in tone from just being chased by zombies. And I think Resident Evil really needed that injection of you know what, we don't have to just do zombies, we can just make scary games.
Yeah.
And that's cool to me.
Well, you got a release date too, right? May 7th.
Was it May 7th or yeah?
Mm-hmm.
It was in May.
Dude, that's so soon.
But Resident Evil, it wasn't always just there's always other creatures. Like in the first one, there's a giant snake. There's sharks. There's scorpions. There's weird tyrant guys. So it's
biomutants.
They could really just they'd be like, oh yeah, that's the X virus. That's the T virus. That's the Los Plagas or whatever the heck they call it.
Oh, and 5.
Yeah. So.
Or no, 4?
4, I think it's Los Plagas, but I think that one continues through 5.
It's the plague.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, guys. Oh, no. We're living Resident Evil right now.
I do sometimes feel like we're in the beginning of a post-apocalyptic movie.
Oh, well, let's hope not. On that note, do you guys have any final thoughts on Resident Evil, the movies, the games, the franchise? the remasters, number 8. What are your final thoughts in general?
Why does Chris always look different in every game?
I don't know. I thought the new Leon looked kind of different too. They showed him in like a suit. Oh, that was the TV show, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I do remember the clip from the TV show. Yeah, they had Leon, and they were like, he's looking sharp in a suit. And I'm like, kinda. But he looked a little bit different. And I think he looks different in 2 Remaster than he does in 4.
Well, he's supposed to be younger in 2.
Yeah, also in 2 Remaster, they both look like they're pop stars. Like, they're just like, they're like very pretty-ish. Yeah. And I'm like, isn't this like a gritty horror game? And like the 2 main characters are just like very pretty and handsome. I just didn't quite, I'm like,
they're,
this doesn't fit.
They're rookie
Why
cops.
You're a rookie cop. Yes, Lieutenant. Get out there, rookie. Anyways. It's a good game. Final thoughts? Going once, going twice?
It's
Ending
a series
the podcast.
I hope to get into more.
Yeah, I want to play at least one of them to completion, but I never end up doing it.
Just two is short. 2 is short.
Yeah,
I'll do 2.
Yeah, it's pretty short.
Do I have to beat both campaigns, or can I just do Leon?
No, I just did 1.
You could do Leon, and then you could do the
Claire.
But you do like the B side or whatever.
Is it hard like Celeste when you do the B side?
No, it's just different. But like if you do Leon's story and then you just do Claire's story, it's the same exact game pretty much, just a few different things. But if you do like the I think it's B, it's different.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we hope to have informed all you Resident Evil fans out there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to also subscribe to us on YouTube and ring that notification bell. Follow our Twitter and Instagram. Both are at the GamePack YT. Thanks again, and take care.